cracking, everybody? Buenos dias, saludos. So I watched this video, and there was a guest on Tony A's Radium Rodium's show, and he spoke about 20 years in the system and a man having the respect, that people have more respect for somebody in and out the system versus a man that did 20 years working and take care of his family, right? And then he went on this long rant about how you want me to give you respect, but what about my respect? See, this is the major flaw in that argument. And there is a major flaw. The flaw is that man that did that time, that 20 years, he came out to his world, the streets. He came out to his barrio. Now, it didn't matter to him what the guy that's working 20 years thought of him. He didn't come out to that. He came out to what the streets thought of him, what his homies thought of him. That's what he came out to. He's not going to your world and asking for respect. He earned his respect in his world. Now, I'm not saying it's right. I'm not saying it's right by any means. But when somebody goes to jail for something they believe in, especially when it comes to street codes and street living in the streets, all that matters to them is their homeboys have respect for them, that their neighborhoods have respect for them, that the game has respect for them, right? Because he did it the way he was supposed to. Versus you got a man that decided, well, I want to have kids, and goes and have kids and works 20 years slaving his ass off to support those kids. Commendable. But they're not in the same world. That man that did 20 years and that man that worked 20 years are not in the same world. See, you're going to go work for 20 years and then come to a world on the streets and expect the same respect. You're not going to get it. Sorry to burst your bubble. It doesn't work that way. Now, I'm not saying there's anything right about going to prison and anything's wrong with working for your family, right? A lot of us on the streets do not take care of our responsibility as far as family and kids. A lot of us don't. You were talking about missing birthdays, and I missed 8 years of my kid's birthday. I missed 8 years of Christmas. I missed 8 New Year's. I missed 8 Thanksgivings. I missed 8 St. Patrick's Days. I missed every day of his life for 8 years. Because I felt my responsibility was towards the streets and the game. And that's what I invested my time in. Versus you felt it was necessary to feed your kids. Nothing wrong with that. It's commendable again. But you can't come to my side of the street and expect the same respect and acknowledgement that I get from the streets. Just like I can't go with my street credits to the real world. Tell them, yeah, I did 20 years for my neighborhood, for what I believed in and what I stood up for. I did 20 years for it. Do I get my respects on the street and in the real world? No, I don't. Two different worlds. What you put into one world makes it may not get you what you want in that other world. So all that screaming and hollering that I don't get the same respect because I didn't put in my work on the job, to a man that's just 20 years of putting work on the streets, the same respect. Because you want to come into that man and put in that work on the streets and demand your respect. But you never did nothing for that respect. At least in the world of the streets. You did nothing for it. All of us that have spent time in prison, that have done for in name of our respect, have done time for the name of our respect, in the name of respect. Versus you, like I said, you worked your whole life and did what you had to do for your family and kids, and you got to enjoy many things that we didn't, because our respect was more important than anything else in the world. Now, I never said it was right. I never said it wasn't misguided. So it looks foolish to me when you sit there and rant and rave that you're not gaining the same respect as that man that did 20 years. If you wanted that same respect, then maybe you should have went and did 20 years in prison. Then you would have missed 20 birthdays, 20 Christmases, 20 whatever days, Columbus days, whatever days it is. Then you would have that street credit, that street respect that you're aching for, that you're asking for, that you're screaming for. You're not the same as that dude that did 20 years in prison. I'm not saying he's any better than you. I'm not saying anything of the sort. What I'm saying is I'm trying to guide you and let you know what your fatal mistake was. Because the guy that did 20 years is not sitting there screaming in the top of his lungs on the internet about how he's not getting his respect because he did 20 years. Right? He's not sitting there and yapping and having a fit about it. But you are. You're sitting there jumping on the internet screaming at the top of your lungs, you don't give me my respect, and I worked 20 years. But you're not in our world. You didn't give up everything to be in that world that I'm in, or that home that did 20 years. And don't just forget about me. I'm not even this in the equation. But you didn't put everything aside or let everything slide by in the real world so that you can go and do your time in prison. A lot of us, a lot of people put that as a priority. I got busted, I gotta go do my time like a man. Versus you got some dude that said, I'm gonna go mop the floor for 20 years at night. But you want that same respect. There's different types of respect, and that ain't the respect that you're screaming for. You want the same respect that man that did the 20 years. I know this sounds like a stupid argument. I know it does. Everybody knows a guy that takes care of his family, commendable. And I could say majority of people that have been in prison are fucking misguided. But it is what it is. It's still two different worlds. I feel misguided because I spent time, all that time in prison. But just because I feel that way doesn't mean everybody else feels the same way. I feel misguided, but there's a lot of people that don't feel misguided. They live their life the way they wanted to live their life. They do what they want to do. They sacrifice everything to be where they're at right now. But these same people are not screaming at the top of their lungs, I want the same respect as a man that did 20 years working. I said the two different worlds. You gotta have people to stop trying to come into this world on the streets and think because I at one time I used to get in trouble. Think they know everything about that world because they don't. Just a little piece of my mind. Have a blessed one, everybody.